listeners, Harika here, and I'm super excited to welcome you to UppTalk. If you're ready to learn and get your hands work wonders in the world of information technology, then you're in the right place. When I say UppTalk, we are not just another edtech company. Consider we are your learning partner committed to unlocking your full potential. Whether you're stepping into the world of technology for the first time or looking to advance your career, we provide top-tier, hands-on courses to build up your career. Let's take our first step towards learning here and explore it.
Yesterday we were talking about how we configure the document transformation. What is it used for? What is the SLT? How we take an X, M, L, apply the XLT transformation and get the desired output in the format or run the calculations or changes or logic that we want to build in XSLT. But in order to work with XSLTs and document transformation, you need to be familiar with XML technologies like SLT, XPOD, etc. And if you're processing that set of data using multiple web services called you need a complex logging and error processing, you may still want to consider using the Studio. The basic integration with connectors with SLTs and multiple XSLTs and multiple web services called. You can do it, but if you go over, say, 2 to 3 transformations in a given integration, it is recommended to use the Studio for that. What is document transformation? It is an integration system that enables you to attach an integration service attachment or XSLT style sheet to the integration. Using a document template, you can attach an Excel file that contains all these specific transformation attributes that define the transformation and format of the integration file. Depending on the requirement of the recipient of your data, you can configure your XSLT accordingly. Generally speaking, you will get a specification document from the vendor that you're trying to connect with. And they should be able to give you the data set that they're expecting as an output file and the format and the number of characters, the date format, the name format first, last, same, before, or even if you want to change the mapping, you can use XLT to do that as well. These Workday specific attributes are referred to as the element transformation and validation or ETV and XML detects or XTT. They add Workday specific processing instructions to an XL file elements using attributes, like you saw yesterday. The document transformation Workday specific processing instructions give you some control over the behavior of the integration. For example, if you require a field, if a required field is missing, you determine whether that is a warning, an error, or critical severity level. You have more control over the validation and messaging than you would with an EID. In EID, it's a completely set format. You don't have much control over what is being given as an error or what is coming out as an output. Additionally, XTT attributes enables you to define the format of the XML file output as well. The document transformation includes custom integration maps and attributes. If more than 3 transformations are required, both connector output use Workday Studio. That is the recommendation. The core connector worker integration system exports worker data changes from Workday into a simple XML format like we did with our integration system here. Initially, when we did not configure the document transformation, we were getting simple XML files with the data that was available in Workday as per our integration parameters. For example, if I say, let's get this one. If we go to the parent event of this integration event, we can see that our output is in basic XML format, the way we configured it. But since we implemented the integration for document transformation with our XSL, let's go to our parent event. And we should get the XML CSV file. But we see that there are some errors here. That happened. And that's why this did not complete. And what are the errors? No value output from applying empty citizenship status for citizen. Following targets are affected for CAR-T, CAR-T biology Kamal and citizenship status. We're getting citizenship status errors because it has not been entered into Workday. What we can do is say, if you don't require citizenship status, go to our field integration map, field attributes. And let's say I don't want to include it in my output. Let's say if I want to relaunch this integration. While this is running, let's run a full file as well. We'll come back to it once this gets completed. It's still working on it. Workday also supports output in CSV format with certain limitations. While that integration is running on the back end, we'll come back to it as soon as it completes. As you hire, promote, transfer, terminate, or update worker data, the integration generates a text file containing the changes. Using configurable data sections or Workday delivered report fields and calculated fields that you create, you can export any worker data, any combination. Change detection. We have been talking about full file and changes. The core connector worker detects the changes to worker data by monitoring a transaction log. When you set up the integration system, you may select which business processes and transaction types that our integration system should subscribe to monitor the changes. If integration system does not subscribe to a transaction type that affects your worker profile, Workday will not include changes triggered by that transaction type. And how do we set up the subscription or the change transaction? You go to the Integration System Related Actions button. Go to Integration System and edit subscriptions. You can either subscribe to all business processes or specific transaction types. You can select by selecting a particular business process, like say job change or hire, or you have the option to select all business, subscribe to all business processes. And also you can select the transaction types with accept, or you can subscribe to all transaction types. What kind of transactions you're doing? For the business processes, let's subscribe to all business processes. Let's see. This is the full file that we're running. Has it completed? And do we have any errors? No, we don't have any errors. And output is coming out to be as an XML file. Integration event. Output file. And why is our CSV not coming through? Let's go back to our integration system. Look at the business processes. We have our document delivery. But where is our DT? Where's FCCWT? Oh, we did not create our document transformation. We use an existing integration to see the output of the file. We were looking at these, my apologies. We were looking at the VJ CC view out and in. We were using the document transformation file that we saw yesterday. As we don't have a document transformation attached to our test integration, we're seeing the output in XML. But if we look at the VJ CC view out, the document transformation is created and it has the attachment services, document transformation, document retention, and file name and sequence generator. We look at how we created the file name and sequence generator as well. When you set up the integration system, you may select which business process and transaction type the integration system should subscribe to. And if integration system does not supply to any transaction that affects your worker profile, they will not include the changes triggered by that transaction. Worker integration uses 3 steps to process, to detect and report changes. When the core connector worker integration checks the transaction log, the integration determines which worker have had changes which resulted in the generation of at least one of the configured transaction events for each worker with a matching transaction or change. The integration compares the report fields for the time at which the integration was run and the time which it was last successfully run. It looks at the time window between the last successful run and when it is being run now. It identifies which, if any, of the values of the interest have been modified. If the worker has changes in the field values or eligibility, Workday generates an appropriate creation, change, or deletion message. In the core connector full diff extract, you can configure a core connector worker integration to select all workers who meet the eligibility criteria, then determine the changes for the return data. To enable this option, disable transaction log services. When you run the integration, Workday extracts all applicable data for the defined population of the employees. For any data for an employee changed during the defined date phase, Workday includes all data for that employee. Not just the changes, but all the data for that employee when you use a full file or full extract. Worker eligibility that we saw here in our integration we define the eligibility criteria as to who we want to include in our integration, where we find that the location is India and USA. Any employees who has a location of India or USA should be included in the integration. We use a true-false condition location address country in the selection list. If it's India and or United States, they should be populated in your integration parameters as they are set up as your eligibility criteria. The user determines whether a worker is eligible for inclusion in the integration output. The field should return a Boolean value, such as true or false. If the field value is true for a worker, that worker is a member of the group, and the changes for that worker are included in the integration. If the field value equals false, the integration system ignores that worker. Integration field overrides. Which we see right here. It defines the final eligibility and also any of the field override values that we created in our field override service for our integration, where we brought worker to your EV2. If the field override is a flexible tool to customize your integration system, use a field override to map tented data to an external system and add custom values to integration output file. All the standard values that you get here. In your field attributes, all the values that are available by the attributes available in your personal data section, status data section, position data section, compensation data section, or worker transaction log data section. And you need an additional field. That is when you use a field override service. The field override to map tenanted data, which is your data in your tenant, in your worker tenant to an external system, and add custom values to integration output files. Field override uses report fields or calculated fields to supply the values that are required by the external system. To configure integration field override as related action on integration, select Integration System. Configure integration field overrides. Core connector to worker. Integration template include defined eligibility. Eligibility criterion field override. Designate a report or a calculated field that identifies if a worker is not eligible for the integration. The report field or calculated field must be based on worker, business object, and it must return a Boolean value true or false. The Boolean true includes a worker in the integration, and Boolean false excludes the worker. And what are the integration services? The integration system, configuration services, integration attributes, configuration field attributes, field overrides, and configuration maps. To launch an integration, run the launch schedule integration task. This task can be run directly or it can be accessed via integration systems. Related actions to the integration launch schedule. We have already covered this part. But here are the features: the integration, the organization, and the run frequency. These are the parameters you get when you launch an integration. Integration, this parameter specifies the integration system you wish to launch. Integration system that currently have critical errors in the configuration cannot be selected if they have critical errors. If accessing the task by the related actions of an integration system, the integration parameters will be pre-populated. Organization. When you launch an integration, you have the feature of organization here as well. And what is that feature? If you intend to run the integration immediately, select the organization for which you want to run the integration. The prompt varies depending on the integration process, even and on your security access. For example, if you want to run for, say, GMS USA only, or you want to run it for a cost center, any type of organization like HR. Let's see what organization this is. This is a supervising organization. I was looking for the cost center. Again, this is supervisor. Let's see. Cost center. EFG cost. And this is supervisory. Let's say we want to select the HR services for. There's a cost center, 4600 cost center. There are 5 people in it. I want to run it for a given organization only. I can select the organization. It could be any kind of organization type that you have, like cost center, like supervisory, business units, company, and on. The run frequency parameters defaults to run now, which represents an ad hoc run at that moment. This would be considered a manual launch. Selecting any other frequency would be used to configure a scheduled launch. The scheduled frequency are run once in the future: minute recurrence, hourly recurrence, daily recurrence, weekly recurrence, and monthly recurrence. I can set it up to run, say, on a weekly recurrence. For 41600 organization that I've selected. And let's say I set up the parameters that every time the scheduler runs. Current moment, effective date, say last day of next month, last successful entry moment. I would like to say last success. As a completed loss integration. As of entry date or entry date time of last completed integration event. And similarly last successful effective date. Loss integration event. And let's say it's going to be all workers, no restriction, full file. And then I set up the schedule, say days of the week, say every Monday, start time say. The time runs once and the next Monday is going to be say 27th. And let's say I want to let it run for say 2 months, say 2023. And now we have set up the schedule and it will use the same delivery parameters that we have defined before. We have set up the scheduler current moment, date and time. Every Monday 6 am, it will use the current moment. Effectively, it will be last day of next month. We are looking at effective dates in the future. Everything that's in the future, we want to send it through. Last successful as of entry date time of last completed integration event. And last successful effective date as of entry date and time of last completed integration event. What we are doing is, as soon as the schedule starts working, it will pick up the last as of date and as of time of the integration event that was completed. Every single time. The way we design these parameters is, we don't want to keep on coming and changing the parameters. They are running on automatic schedule. You can run this run. Frequency can be run once like default. Otherwise, you can set up the scheduler for minute, hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, and on. After providing the parameters to the long schedule integration task and clicking, we'll be taken to schedule an integration page for core connector worker integration. There are several launch parameters. The core connector data launch parameters extracts records that are current as of the specified date of entry moment and effective date parameters. If the full file is not selected, the extract includes only those records that are detected to have changed in one or more output fields as compared to what was current as of the last successful entry moment and last successful effective date parameters. Launching integration system as of the entry moment, effective date, last successful as of entry moment, and last successful effective date. In addition to the core connector date launch parameters, core connectors worker provides 3 additional launch parameters and the core connector worker integration configuration as follows. The launch parameter enables you to restrict the integration to only considering those workers selected in the list. This parameter is unset by default, like we have here. The workers restricted result by org and full file. If you select add workers like we did last time, like we added Julie Boss and the other guy, we were only getting the data for those 2 employees. Restrict result by orgs. This launch parameters enable you to restrict the integration to only considering workers within an organization as well as any subordinates. This parameter is unset by default in full file. The launch parameter is used to extract all data, regardless of how recently it was changed, and worker must still fulfill the eligibility rule to be included in the output. This parameter is again unset by default. It's blank. To change direction, worker detects changes to worker data by monitoring a transaction log. When you set up the integration system, you select which business process and transaction types to which integration system should subscribe to and work in the comments that if you are not sure if the integration system should be subscribed to a given transaction business process, then you should not exclude it. Let's have a look at our output files that we ran. What's this? A full file. This the second one as well. This completed on. Date time is now 18. This should be the at home. This is Logan XSU boss Steve Morgan. Let's say there we go. Here, is this a full file or the change file? This is the change file and still we don't see the transaction logs. And this is the full file. And let's search for your labels. This right here. It's looking. This is supervisor Izuli balls and see if we can find the next one. This is a full file. It should have woolly balls. Explorer is giving me problems. It is really come back to it again. In change detection, Workday uses a complex algorithm to determine which changes to capture. Which change should be detected? A change is made in the system and then integration is launched. With the subscriptions, we define at which changes should be detected. The transaction log service. I think we'll come back to it again. I'm going to ignore this until we get that working. We'll come back to the transaction log again. We saw that there is an integration service as well. The integration sequence generator. Integration sequence generator enables for integration to generate a unique sequence name and each time at once. When a file name sequence generator has been configured, the system will ignore the static output file name attribute. And to create a sequence generator, select the integration system. Configure the integration sequence generator. Related action. Let's go back to our integration and set up a sequence generator for our integration. First, we need to make sure that the integration sequence generator service has been enabled. We have the integration map integration foundation worker eligibility. core connector integration document, and we can see that our integration sequence generator is not enabled. Let's go back to our integration services. And here we should be able to find sequence generator, which is right here. It's not enabled. Let's go ahead and enable that. Now over here, you will see that the sequence generator service has been enabled. And now in your related actions menu, you should be able to see the sequence generator configuration parameters. Before it was on there. Let's go ahead and click that. And on the output file name, we can set up our sequence generator. Let's say we want to increment sequence by 1. If there is any padding required, let's say from left to right, let's say add 4 as padding. And say I would like to have my output file name as what was our file name currently that we were using. Let's say it's CF version 24. See, this is my current filing. I would like to change this to, let's say, I want to add date in it. If I hover my mouse over the box, I will see the sample sequence generators examples here that I can use to configure my sequence generator. Let's say I want to start with year, then dash month, then dash date. Here in the two boxes or the square brackets, I'll say year, 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 year. For month I'm using the capital. And for day I'm using the lowercase. And why is that? If you see here the small year will equal to 2022. And if I just do 2y, it will only give me 22. For M in capital, it will give me the options for months. If I use 2M, it will give me the month in SCP. If I do 2M, it will give me the month solo 9. If I do M, it will give me 9. But if I use a lowercase m, as you can see down below in minutes, it will give me the minutes, not the months. That's why capital is important here. And let's say I would like to add a sequence after the date. And I use the sequence. As you can see, CQ or SEQ can be used for sequencing. Let's say I want to restart. Frequency is going to be, say, every year. Restart a sequence back to 1. I can define as to what the restart number could be. Say restart number is going to be 1. If I need to set up a time zone, I can do that. If sequence over behavior, if it goes over the limit, ignore the padding. And I can set up the last sequence ID used. Let's say if last year I used 2021 or whatever the sequence number may be, I can set up my last sequence. It will continue forward from that point, or I can use the last date. And currently the example of our sequence would look something like this. CF undercode CC boundary dash 2023 month and date underscore the sequence number. Say if I use the last sequence 24, you can see the example. Sequence got updated. Say I would like to add time parameters here as well. Say, hours, minutes, seconds. For hours, I would use K. For 24-hour format set. And then for minutes, I would like to use M. And for seconds, I would like to use S. And after that, I would like this sequence to be shown. If I click here, you can see that 853 and let's say after hours, I would like to say put an underscore here. And you can see the example. Sequence has been updated. Every time it will run, it will give me the date, the time, and the sequence number, which is towards the end. If I need to remove the padding, say I keep it at 0. The 1000 will go away and 24 will remain. Say I want the padding to be at, say 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10. The total length will be of 10 digits. I want the padding to be at say 6. The total length would come out to be 6. Let's press. Our now sequence generator has been configured to be used with the integration. And to verify that systems is configured, integration sequence generator. And here you see the worker output. File name is going to be this. Next time we launch this integration, we will have our file name in this format. Let's go ahead and test it. I want to change one more attribute here before we launch it. I'll use a VSC log. If selected, the translation log, if enabled, will be used for full file extract. Let's remove this from here. Use translation log with full file. And let's really launch our last translation event. So let's make a change file from 2022-101, 12 feet 9, 59, 1200 AM. Let's say today. This is going to be as of today. This is going to be current moment. Only a couple of workers. File is quit. Logan Neal, Steve Morgan. Let's include these guys. We're only pulling for a couple of employees, and this is not going to be a full file. Only changes, no organization selected, and from 2022 to the end of this month. It's successfully completed. Now let's look at the file name CFC date, time, and then sequence numbers mode. This has changed as an output file name using our sequence generator. Let's go ahead and open it. Let's go ahead and close the other files. We have 10 work account. Full file is false, starting with login. And we have Steve the status, the phone data, the position data. We're getting the prior values. Boss. Prior value Michael Young. Still, we're not seeing the transaction log. It may have something to do with the prior values, but I'll get this figured out and we'll come back to transaction log in the later chapter. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@uptalk.com.